Hey there, my name is Bren Vanderswag. I'm the president of GutterExperts.com and founder of Gutter-Con, which was held in Orlando, Florida just this past February. I love to chat with people in the gutter industry, suppliers, inventors, manufacturers, and gutter guys and gals just like you and me. I enjoy finding out how they got into the business, where they came from, and where their businesses are doing in the gutter industry today. Please meet my guest for today, Tyler Barkley, co-owner of Goliath Gutters, located in Des Moines, Iowa. He started the business in 2020 and is already doing 1.7 million going into his third year of business. How you doing today, Tyler?
Fantastic. I appreciate you letting me be on your show with you.
Yeah. So we always chat a little bit about the weather. You said it was a perfect 72 degrees there today.
Yeah, I mean, I can't complain too much. It looks like this week going into Labor Day, we actually finally get some great weather of a week or so. So we always try to capitalize on it, and try to respect our techs and let them enjoy a little bit of the weather, but then try to capitalize as much as we can on installing at the same time, because it seems sometimes, we get like 2 weeks of spring and then boom, it's summer, and it just goes summer all the way to the end. So it's beautiful out today, fortunately.
What holiday did you say it was?
Memorial Day.
Oh, Memorial. I thought you said Labor Day.
Oh, I might have.
Yeah, that's coming up next weekend, right?
Correct.
Yeah, and in fact, today I'm speaking to you from Canada. Here on the East Coast, it's Victoria Day. I don't know, is it Victoria Day all across Canada, Chris? I'm not sure if it is, but it's like the Queen's birthday.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Well, so cheers, happy birthday.
Yeah, happy birthday to Queen Victoria. So Des Moines, tell me a little bit about. Have you always lived there, grown up there?
For the most part, born and kind of raised in Texas, and then moved to Iowa. My dad got a job up there, and it's funny, people always ask, "Oh, why did you move from Texas to Iowa?" Well, when you're 10, it's not like you're going to be like, "All right, mom and dad, see you later, I'm staying." And so kind of have to go with them. But
what did your dad do?
He's an administrator, principal.
Okay.
And so I moved up there, small town, 3,000 people, super small. So coming from Houston, Texas to there was kind of a shell shock. And so anyway, went to high school and everything, graduated from there. I went into the military right after that. I went into the Air Force. I was a jet engine mechanic for 4 years in the military. And so kind of did that. And then, it's funny to talk about it now as I think about it, but I got out of the military and didn't really know what I wanted to do. And so
before you go past that, I would like to ask you a question just about that.
Absolutely.
You said you were a jet engine repairman?
A jet engine mechanic.
So would you be like out on were you Navy or Army or?
I was in the Air Force.
Air Force. So you were out in the boats, like out in the.
No, so I worked on the big heavy planes. So basically the same style of planes as commercial flights are. Except most of them are cargo planes in the military. And so that was the vessels that I worked on.
Okay. So I have to ask, wouldn't a natural progression be to leave the Air Force or the Navy and go into civilian making probably big bucks?
You would think so. It's a very stressful job. And in the same retrospect as like what air traffic controllers do, same thing. They make big bucks, but it's because there's big stress with it. It's not that if you're good at your job or not, there's still stresses. Like you're, as good of a job that you do, you're in control of people's safety, 10,000 feet in the air or how they fly. And so it was I was always a mechanic just by trade growing up. Excuse me. And so it was very easy for me to take on. And but no, I didn't really have a lot of drive to go do it afterwards. It wasn't a passion of mine. For me, it was just a job. And so that's kind of how I look at it. And but that's hopefully that answers your question on that.
Well, thank you for your service.
Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you.
So after the Navy, what did you do then?
So I got out and I kind of just bounced around like a pinball from job to job, not really knowing what I wanted to do just in life in general. Always had a job. I think I've been working since I was like 13 years old. So that's just part of life growing up. You had a job and you worked. And so did this job for a little bit and didn't like it. So went to a different job and didn't like it. I was only like 22 years old, so I didn't know any better.
Single still, probably?
What's that?
You were single at the time, I assume?
Yes. Yeah. And so, this and that, got into some maintenance stuff, ended up falling into a job where I was managing a nutrition supplement store, and kind of did that for a little while, got away from that, got into a retail market of working at like a box store, like it's called Menards, which is like Home Depot and Lowe's.
Yes, I know it.
So started there, kind of escalated there, did that for a handful of years. And then went away from that. And funny enough, before I started doing gutters, I was working at a production company making toothpaste. And so, yeah. And so a friend of mine approached me about a year and a half before we pulled the trigger on it. And it was like, hey,
well,
man,
first of all, I got to ask you about the toothpaste.
Yeah, absolutely.
So how big of a bucket do they use to make the toothpaste?
I mean, these things are, not as big, but if you took a semi, like a tanker semi that you see on gas, and turn it upside, like on its side, that's how big these things are. They're huge.
So what is made, like, how do you make toothpaste?
It's really simple, actually. It's you add water, you add like a gum ingredient. I wish my camera would focus here. You add like a gum ingredient, flavorings, coloring to it, stuff like that, and it just mixes it in this big pot. And until
what's the main ingredient?
It's like a xanthan gum, which is what it is, and then a cleaning product. I don't think it's fluoride cleaner, but something like that, But we made all like big name brand stuff too. And then it's funny because it gets labeled as different stuff, but it's a lot of the same. Yeah, absolutely. And so it blew my mind the first time I ever see it, that they actually load the toothpaste in the containers upside down. I never knew how they filled them. But they actually get loaded from the bottom, and that
makes sense, and then zip it and seal it. Yeah.
And so did that. And my friend, my business partner now, we were at a happy hour or something. He's like, hey, he worked in construction. He worked for a supplier, and he's like, I think you need to open a gutter company. And I was like, I think you need to get a CAT scan. You're just
out of the blue, like
out of the blue. And he's like, dude, I'm telling you, man. And I was like, no, I'm not swinging hammers anymore. I'm done with construction. I'm content where I'm at. It's easy. It's fine. Yeah. So then like 6 months later, he pitched it to me again. And I was like, dude, no, I'm not doing it.
And what was he doing?
He worked for ABC Supply. I'm sure you've heard of them.
Okay. Yeah.
And so he, on the backside of this, which he kind of expressed, but I never really took it to heart, was he was hearing all the contractors complain that there wasn't a gutter crew. There wasn't a gutter crew. Can't find good gutter guys, And so about 6 months later, like the third time, he's like, dude, I'm telling you, man. He's like, there's a niche for this. There's a hole in the market. You need to do this. And I've known him for like 15 years. So he's seen my work ethic and how I've dealt with, being involved with bad bosses and stuff like that. He's like, I think you need to do this. And I was like, all right, I'll do some research. So, I sat down on the computer, I started Googling stuff, and I watched about 1,000 YouTube videos. And the joke that we say, it was YouTube in a dream. And that's how it started. Was I went back to him about 2 weeks later and said, all right, let's do it. And I think we had our LLC like 2 months later.
So he actually did it with you.
Yeah. So
they sell gutter materials, right? ABC.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay.
And so he was my backer in it. And so hit the ground or order my machine. I think my machine was here May of 2020, and perfect time to start a business in 2020. Yeah. And I was still working full time, and got there. I think I did my first job June 8th, if I remember correctly. And it took me 3 days to do my first job. I did it by myself. It was a huge house. And then from there, I was still doing toothpaste and kind of doing it on the side a little bit, and reached out to a couple of mutual friends that we had in the industry. One of them was a big roofer. And I was like, hey, we started this gutter business. You need me, help for gutters? And he's like, yeah, for sure. So he sent me a handful of jobs, maybe like 6 or 7 jobs. And I was like, all right, cool. And like 3 weeks later, he calls me and he's like, hey man, what are you doing? And I was like, what do you mean? And he's like, none of these jobs are done. You got like 3 jobs done. I was like, dude, I'm working a full-time job and doing this on the side by myself. And I didn't have a helper. I didn't have anybody, just me. And he's like, what? And I was like, yeah, dude, I'm doing this part-time alone. And he was like, quit your job. And I was like, oh man, I can't quit my job. I gotta have money come in. He's like, quit your job. I'm gonna bury you in work. And so that was how it started. And he dumped like 60 jobs on my plate.
60.
60. I quit. I put my 2 weeks in, and I told my boss at the time, I said, if I can leave earlier, I would like to. But I don't want to leave you hanging. He's like, nope, it's fine. Just work your week out and be done. My cousin started helping me like part-time. He was a cook. And about a month in, I said, quit your job. I'll give you a raise. Come work for me. And he said, okay. And so that's kind of how it started. Yeah, that's how it started.
So let me back up a little bit. How big is Des Moines, Iowa? How many people?
Summer, how big are we? 300,000?
Yeah.
300,000 people?
Oh, so it's a good sized city.
Yeah. Not as big as Minneapolis or Kansas City.
No, but it's probably like Halifax where I live. Like it's small enough that it's not crazy busy, but it's big enough that it has everything. It has everything you need. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's a nice size. And so everyone was complaining because there were no gutter companies, or the gutter companies that were there just weren't servicing all the need.
Pretty much, I mean, gutter guys get a bad rap. You've been in it, you've understood that and hear that all the time,
Yeah.
And, so that was the thing, nobody would communicate. They'd show up 8 weeks late. Their lead times are 6 months out, or whatever. And so that was kind of that hole we were trying to fill initially anyways. And I mean, before we even get into any more, I never had a plan to be where we're at today. That was never my intention. My intention was to sling gutter for 3 or 4 years, and then
you were going to be an owner operator.
Yeah, that was my plan. Yep, that was 100% my plan. I worked out of my house. I parked my huge truck and trailer in the front driveway of my house, and that was my plan. So,
wow. So, how old are you, by the way?
I'm 39.
39. Okay, so you're in your mid 30s when you started this. Even later 30s, really.
Yeah, I mean, I was 36, I think, when we started.
Yeah.
Just turned 37.
So this is your third season. So you're just
going into the third season.
So you've only had last year and the year before. So that first year, how much did you do your first year for revenue?
So my first full season in 2021, we did $1 million.
Wow. That's pretty good, not being in the gutter business. There's a lot of guys that have been in the business 10 years and haven't hit $1 million.
And it's not something that I'm a gloater about or that I have an ego about by any means. It's just, honestly, I'm a numbers guy. So for me, it's just numbers. I really didn't have any spectrum of where everybody else was, like going even to convention, to know what the range was, like what's everybody doing, And so, yeah, I mean, I feel blessed and fortunate that that's what we did for our first year. Made a lot of mistakes in our first year. Some were really bad.
You were kind of on your own though, because your partner was just a backer. He wasn't really helping you in the business. Is that right?
Correct. He did what he could, but he had a full-time job. And so this is the funny part of that story is, so I started this. We always say kind of like September 1st of March of 20 is kind of when we pulled the full-time trigger on it. I had shoulder surgery December of the same year. So I hung from September to December, and then I was out of the game because I had shoulder surgery. At that time, we had hired 13 guys up to that point. So we had bought multiple rigs, we had bought multiple machines, we got into a shop, we acquired a business. Like, we did 5 years worth of stuff in about 3 months.
I bet you did.
So that was a lot of stress and a lot of not good decisions and things like that happen. But that was kind of that coming into 2021 was trying to like corral all this stuff that had happened and that we had gotten into a little prematurely. If him and I were both in the same room, we would agree on that we did some things too early. We were late to the show on a couple of things in that first year.
So give me an example. Like, what did you do too early and what did you do?
So when I started, I had a truck and trailer machine all set up, all that. We bought 2 Sprinter vans knowing that we were going to expand because of the volume of work that we were getting from contractors. And that's, maybe I should back up just a little bit. My business, or our business, we do about 95% contractor work and about maybe 5% retail. So we get almost everything that we get from contractors. And so we started reaching out to people, a little bit of word of mouth. And then I had a branded vehicle. And so people started calling us and just started dumping work on us. And so we knew, like, okay, we got something, we're going to need another crew at least. And so we bought 2 Sprinter vans out of the gate. We bought brand new because we didn't have cash flow to buy used. We had to buy on something on loan. So we were like, let's buy brand new.
Yeah.
And so that wasn't a really bad one.
It's actually easier to buy brand new than it is to buy something used, isn't it?
It is.
It's kind of crazy.
And I'll continue on that same thing. We got into a shop. We were looking at some shops and we couldn't find anything because I didn't want to have the machines and equipment out during the winter and stuff, because I just felt like wear and tear on them was going to be hard on them. And, you're investing a ton of money into this. And so I was like, I want a shop. We got to have a shop. And so we got into a huge 5,000 square foot warehouse, and it was expensive. And so then we carried payroll of 10 guys at the time because we acquired a business. So we found a company that was kind of doing their thing, but wasn't super happy. And
like a gutter business, you mean?
Yeah. Yep. And we said, hey, we'll buy your equipment, come work for us. And kind of a little bit of like what Tommy does on that kind of stuff, just very, very small compared to what he does. But and so they did. And so we were paying everybody hourly at the time. And so, there's not a ton of motivation when not everybody knows what they're doing. And so, you get a little bit of milk on the clock, but then overtime kills you. So payroll was a killer. And we were not quite a sinking ship, but we were treading water and our arms were getting tired. We had so much overhead with all of our vehicles in the shop and payroll, and just didn't really think that through that first year. And then kind of the kicker of it was like our guys were not producing. So we were doing so small amount of work and having all this overhead that at one point I sat down with my business partner. I was like, we got to do something. We got to pull the plug or cut this thing in half or figure something out.
Yeah.
And so
do you think, let me just ask you this. Do you think it was a training problem, or do you think
grew too big too fast and I didn't have time for quality control or, training as far as that goes with new guys that are coming on. And that's kind of they say, that it makes it good, but the nature of the beast, when you get busy, you don't have time for it. And that's something that I've learned, that you have to make time to train people, to show them that you care, to get them going the right way, to do how you want to do it.
Yeah. And because so, going back to jobs to fix stuff, I don't know if that was one of your problems, but that's a time killer and just total waste of money. It's a money suck.
Oh, for sure. And we didn't have a ton of warranty stuff coming back. It was just, we'd have this is a nail in the coffin story for me. I had a crew of 4 guys that did 50 feet in one day. That's all they did. Yeah. In an entire day, they only got 50 feet of work done.
They were just
jerking
around. They weren't doing anything, or they just didn't do it.
The guy that was in charge of that crew, very, very, very nitpicky about stuff, and was to the point of where, like, he'd roll 10 feet out of coil, and if there was like one nick on one little spot of it, he'd chop it off and start again. And like super meticulous on things, which are qualities that you want in a person, but not to that extreme. And so then they got back to the end of the day. It's like, all right, you guys got all your stuff done? He's like, well, we got to go back tomorrow. This is all we got done. And I was like, what do you mean this is all you got done? And so I think some of it was, they show up and, they would complain for 45 minutes and then take an hour and a half lunch. And I was so busy running that I didn't have eyes on all that, and you can't see everything. And so that's
was your pricing right?
Horrible. It was horrible.
So it was a double.
Walmart. Yeah, we were doing the Walmart thing, trying to be the cheapest and trying to do everybody. And so we had so much work that we couldn't keep up, and we weren't charging enough. So at some point, there was one time that I look back at some of our old invoices, and we were billing a new contractor $3 a foot.
Oh, no wonder you were so freaking busy.
Yeah, right. And but didn't know any better. I was thinking like, hey, let's just get the work coming in. It'll work out. Man, I think we were losing money on every single one of those houses because of our overhead and everything,
Wow.
And So yeah, so learned a ton in that 6 months of 2021.
You're lucky you're still around, actually.
Oh,
Growing that
very,
big and
very lucky.
taking on all that overhead, you're lucky you made it through.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm glad that it happened so early.
Mhm.
And then we were able to weather the storm. And it didn't happen 5 years in when it was just smooth sailing, and all of a sudden boom, it implodes.
Mhm. Wow. So pretty stressful time of your business, I guess.
Yeah, I didn't used to be this platinum in my
No.
beard. I used to be kind of all brown. And so yes, very, very stressful.
And
But
how was that? But how was it? How was your partner? Was he helpful during that time? Was he just as stressed out as you? Did he really realize how bad it was getting? Because you
yeah,
had mentioned that you came to a point where you just said, "Look, we got to do something here."
yeah, my stress was getting stuff done and being so behind. And our lead times were 6 and 8 weeks with 3 crews in one location, that it's like, what are we going to do? I can't keep up. But it's because we weren't getting anything done. So the work started to compile and compile. His stress was on the financial side. And
Yeah.
he's like, man, I've got, 6 figures tied up into everything. And, he was a lot of personal financial stuff that he put in, like his own money.
Yeah.
And so, the stresses that puts on his relationship with his family, and then our stress as far as that goes. And so, like I said, at one point we were like, we either got to cut the team in half, the entire team in half, move back into my house, work out of my garage, or things got to change. And so it was weird. Like that was probably a 2 or 3 week stretch of where like daily we would talk, and it's like, what are we going to do? Here's the numbers. Like I've broken it down. This is how much we have to do to get out of this hole. Because you can only leverage so much until there's no more leverage, and then you just don't have any money left over.
Yeah.
And so we were, in the hole with vendors and in the hole with credit cards. And, I think a lot of, if you say entrepreneurs or business, people, that happens. And
Yeah.
so it's, then it's sink or swim. And I think it's very easy to just pull the pen and say, forget it. Let's just cut our losses and move on. I'm a grinder. I'm a hustler at heart. And so, I was at the office at 5 a.m. I was working till 7 p.m. trying to figure stuff out, going out and helping, and really kind of changed and shifted my mindset on, now we got to improve the business. It's not about growth. It's not about what we're getting done. It's about how do we make this a business successful. And the guys that we kept out of that original group kind of, I think, understood that and caught wind of that, and really like the spring or the summer, late summer, fall of 2021, the main guys that we kept, because we did let some people go. Some people went on their own ways. And but some of those guys, it just clicked, and all of a sudden it just took off like a rocket ship, and they were just crushing footage every day. Still no, callback stuff, very few anyways. And so our quality was something that we were always saying that was a big part of that. And I think that was the big part of it was, keeping the good guys, and not that the other guys were bad, but having a good core group of guys to build this around again is kind of where we've come to now.
Yeah. So so it sounds like 2021, you kind of realized, what you had done wrong and what you were going to do right. So you cut back on a few employees, like you just said. And were you running just as many crews then, or did you cut back on crews too?
We weren't as overstaffed.
Okay.
We kind of went to not minimal staff, but not as heavily. And we're still running 3 crews. A lot of it too is if you're not a business person, you have no idea what you're doing. And I was not a business person. I was just a worker. And so you don't know about like payroll tax and workman's comp bills and things like that. You just don't know about it. And so a lot of those things hit us in 2021. And so going into 2022, we did a lot of in the winter of that time frame. We did a lot of like, what can we do to be more efficient? What can we do to set our techs up to be successful so that they can help our business? Because it's them who do everything. Sure, our team in the office and whatnot now does a lot, but it's not the same as the work that's getting done. And so some of the things, and I don't know if you want me to go into this of what
No,
we
go
changed,
ahead.
but so we have like an office team, an operations team now. And so things that we do differently in 22 was like we were going to our suppliers every day to get the daily stuff. Like every day we would drive to the supplier, load up, go to the job site. The teams would, if it was a tear off, they would bring all that stuff back at the end of the day. And so lots of inefficiencies in that. So coming into 22, we made it to where our warehouse guys or office team pulls all the orders for everybody for the next day and stages them. Now we have a devoted scrap truck, and we go pick scrap up from all of our teams in the area, so they don't have to worry about scrap.
Okay. How does that work? Let me ask you that, just because I haven't really heard of that before, but I can see how that might be good. But there's quite an expense to doing that too, right?
So my philosophy on it was, the techs make money and we make money when they install gutters.
Mhm.
They don't make money hauling scrap or doing that kind of stuff. So let's make them the most efficient and most, make their production numbers go up as high as we can. And so we try to take everything off their plate as possible besides just installing gutters. And so at the time I had one person in the office, and so we paid him hourly, but he helped out with inventory and getting materials brought to the office or the warehouse, stage and stuff. And then it was part of his job to go pick up scrap. So we had three teams in the area. If they, had 6 stops, the responsibility of the installers was to cut it down so it fit in whatever vehicle we were hauling it in. And then we come and pick it up. So if they were done before we got there, they left it on the curb basically in a nice pile, so it doesn't look like it's, a bunch of, hoodlums running around or whatever. But and so he would go pick it up, and we do that still to this day now, to where it makes it more efficient for our guys to install. And I know there's probably a lot of people that are saying, well, it's part of their job. Yeah, but the volume that we do, and not that I do the most volume by any means, we're trying to make it to where our volume can be up here and let all this other stuff down here be handled by someone else.
Yeah. Well, I guess the other thing too is that, if there's one thing guys complain about is having all that shit in their truck, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we all know hauling scrap, where it goes in the space that is supposed to be your place to walk, right?
Right.
So especially going to the second job or third job, if you're lucky enough that day, all that scrap from the first job is not going to be there. So I can see how that would be kind of a neat thing to do, but you've got to have the volume in order to do that too. You can't just do that with one truck, of course. And I guess that garbage pickup truck, if that's what you want to call it, he can also be delivering materials for the guys too.
Yeah, and so we try to make it to where, so we order, and this is now, we'll kind of 2022 went pretty smoothly. So when I say what I'm saying, it's what we're doing now as well.
Yeah.
But now we order once a week for the next week, so ahead of time. So we get everything in that we need. We we do our schedule 2 weeks out at a time, so we know what's coming up for the next week. Those guys, they stage stuff for the crews the night before. So while they're gone for the day, they're staging everything. So when the crews get back, they unload into a de-staging area. They don't have to worry about putting stuff back or returning stuff. And then they load up for the next day. We make it a policy to where at the end of the day, if your van's more than half full, you can fill up at the night before. Same thing with our generators and things like that. They've got a checklist to go through at night, to where when they hit the shop in the morning, it's grab a coffee, grab a snack, and hit the road. So you're not wasting an hour or an hour and a half every morning doing that monotonous stuff.
Yeah, cool. Sounds like a good idea. So how many crews are you running now today?
So we have 3 crews running right now.
Okay. And how many guys do you have on a crew? 2 or 3?
Two. So we're slightly understaffed right now. I'd like to have 1 or 2 floaters in case somebody's on vacation or sick or whatever. But it's fairly simple to rotate somebody out, and we just have to pick up the slack at the end of the week. Things like that.
Yeah. So are you still mostly contractor work now?
Yeah. So this season, my goal coming into this year, even before going to convention, was to try to grow our retail side of things. My goal for 2023, was to be 20% retail was what I wanted. We're not quite there yet. We're still trying some new avenues. We're getting, SEO stuff and things that you learn about that I learned about at convention. Andrew's actually building us a new CRM, a custom CRM through his company. So we used him as a resource there. So that's been great.
Andrew
His name.
Miller.
Yes.
Okay.
So we
tell us a little bit about that if you don't mind.
Sure. So we use WorkIZ right now as our CRM.
WorkIZ.
Yes, WorkEase is what it's called, but is almost all the CRMs are not designed for kind of what we do as far as a multi-crew, multi-big customer, operation. Most of those are designed for what like HVAC and plumbers use them for. So individual people, so where we have constant contractors as a customer with multiple jobs and multiple crews. And there was just nothing that was specific for what we needed. So we use that CRM a lot for its automations. We send out automations like with the process of our jobs. There's, there's an automation for when the crew's on their way, when the job's done. The contractors or the customers, I should say, get an email and a text on those things. Try to take that to the next level, not be the standard gutter guy where they're just like, oh, I guess the gutters are done now. And so I approached Andrew at convention, asking him and saying, hey, this is kind of what we're doing. I mean, we were using, and we still do, we haven't launched it yet, but super excited. I actually have a meeting with him on Wednesday about launching it. But it's going to kind of tie together. We use Google Sheets a lot for like our scheduling and our inventory and like our pipeline. And so I said, here's everything that we do. Can you make this work as one system? And he's like, yeah, no problem. So him and I have been working for the last 2-3 months now on having this thing put together, and very, very excited because it's all going to be on one platform. It's going to, eliminate a lot of the processes and
nice.
Automation.
So this is something your thing. It's not for anyone else, or is Andrew putting this out for other people? Hopefully
it'll be something to where he'll be able to offer it to other people, and be able to elaborate on it. But what him and I are working on is a complete custom operating system. It's not a piggyback on anything. So it's being tailored to what we are asking him, but this can very easily be something that others use. And the great part about it is the automations that they're creating, it's not just like Flare. It's like when you close a job out, it will auto prompt an invoice in QuickBooks to be able to send. It can auto generate material orders for a week's schedule. It's going to really simplify a lot of the legwork that you have to do as an owner operator, and to where it makes what you do easier to being able to then grow your business. I've been super excited and happy that I've been able to talk to so many people from convention still. And guys that are just getting into it that I talk to and have still kept in contact. I'm like, hey, what do you do with this? How do you do that? And I'm like, you're trying to give advice, even though I'm really new into the game. I am a big believer in, don't let somebody else fall where you did. Help them, make those things. And that's something that, I took input from guys that were ahead of where we were. Same thing at convention. And I'm just trying to pass that on,
Cool. Well, let me just clarify. Of course, I know what you're talking about, but there's guys that may be watching this that don't maybe know what you mean when you say convention, but you're talking about Gutter-Con, right?
Correct.
Okay, good. Yeah. Okay. So I'm glad. I'm so happy to hear that you got so much out of Gutter-Con, because this was your first year. You didn't get to the first one we had in Denver.
Correct.
In 2022. So
yes, I'm super ecstatic about coming home from there. I brought a voice recorder that I recorded every single thing that went on, and I think I took 10 pages of typed notes.
Oh wow, awesome.
For the whole trip, and so it was awesome. I met Steve Ball from Michigan Gutters out there. I picked his brain for about the whole week. I'm sure he was sick of me by the time it was get ready to leave. Talked with Corey about some stuff from up in Minnesota. And but it's super fun. I mean, I love talking to people and being able to share experiences and, hey, what are you doing, or what are you doing with that? And we do a lot of things differently than what the conventional type is. We don't pay just on production or just hourly. We do a split pay for our guys. And so a lot of people hadn't heard anything about that. And so and like for us as a company, all of our guys are W-2 employees. We offer health insurance, dental, and vision. We offer 401k. We do PTO. We do all the paid holidays. That's just a standard.
You're not doing all that at $3 a foot.
No, no. Well, we were, but we weren't surviving.
So, well, what do you mean by split pay? What, do you mind telling us a little bit about that?
Sure. And so we kind of went on every aspect of pay. We started with hourly, and the overtime was kind of a killer for us. And guys want to work, but they only want to work to make money just on the hours, not because of what they're getting done. And so then we switched and we went to salary with a lot of them and said, okay, hey, you're getting salary, you're working from when I need you to when I need you. And then there's no motivation because they make the same amount to work 2 hours as 10.
Yeah.
And so then we kind of had this idea of this split pay. And so a percentage of their pay is it's a base pay. So they get, and it depends on how long they've been there and where they rent.
Is it kind of like a lower, like closer to a minimum wage sort of thing?
No, so they're and almost everybody is tiered. I would say it's like 70 or 65, 30, 65, 35. Let's call it 70, 30 for easy math. 70% base, 30% commissions on their production. As we progress, I would like that to be closer to 50-50. But so they get a base pay, which is based over the week. So from Monday to Sunday is what that base pay covers. And why I say that now is because we've set in policies in place now to where if it rains or if they don't get their work done, they're required to still get that done in that 7-day range. So we don't push the schedule or, hey, the guys are behind. Okay, move all next week. It's their responsibility to get their stuff done. Yeah. And they have minimum requirements that they have to do in order to qualify, but not qualify, but to get that. And then they get a commission per foot of installation of stuff. So gutters, downspouts, and gutter covers as well.
Oh, and when did you implement the split pay?
Last year in the beginning of the season.
Okay.
So the beginning of 2022.
And did you find that production went way up?
Skyrocketed. Absolutely just launched. And where guys were asking for more stuff, or they wanted the bigger jobs, or they wanted the jobs with gutter covers and things like that. Didn't have a problem working a little bit later. And then it kind of starts a little bit of the camaraderie, like competition between them.
Gamification,
yeah. What'd you get done today? What'd you guys do today? So now we took it a step further going into this year, and we do weekly incentive bonuses based on footages that they hang. So there's a tier where it starts, and they get a X amount of bonus per amount of footage that they get done, and then we bonus that out at the end of the year. So it's not only motivation for them, but it kind of doesn't pit them against each other per se, but it definitely makes them, get at each other a little bit and have some pretty big days. We had a 2-guy crew do 3,300 feet last week, so they're
for the week. I thought you meant like in a day. I was like, what?
No, but so it's been good. It's been probably the biggest change that we've made. That has really impacted it.
Has there been anything negative about it at all? Has the quality gone down? Have you found that there's more callbacks?
As I say this, I'm sure people are listening and saying like, yeah, right, there's no way you're not getting callbacks. We have some callbacks. Things happen. Leaky corner here, need to move it out about there. But when I started bringing the original guys on, I stressed quality more than anything. I said, I'd rather have you take you 2 days and never have to come back than have you take you 30 minutes and have to come back for 10 times. And so I think the core guys that we have, which are still here, really take that to heart and care about what they're doing on these jobs. And so, no, that didn't affect us as much. Where it kind of gets you is like weather days. Before we implicated the 7-day, you got to get it done. We used to shift the schedule out. So if it rained Tuesday and Wednesday, we would just move the schedule down, which then affects and ripple effects in the next week. And so we pay them for those 2 days because they're on that base, but they're not getting any work done. And so that was kind of the negative part of it. But I think the biggest thing is just, putting processes and procedures in place that it's black and white. Hey, here's the policy. Does anybody have questions? Okay, this is what we got to follow. And so then there's not really any hearsay on it or, things to where it's like, well, I didn't know. Well, we have a huge team meeting in the beginning of every season where we come in and talk about these things. And that's kind of why we did it, is so that it holds them accountable is the biggest thing.
Yeah. Cool. So, so that's great. You've kind of told us where you were, where you've come to, where you are today. So what's the big push? Like, you're going into your 3rd season, but what's out in front of you over the next year or two?
So, like I said earlier, getting more into the retail market is a big goal of ours.
And what do you, when you say get into the retail market, does that just mean you're going to do more retail work, 5 and 6 inch gutter, or you got
correct.
any plans for anything else?
No, that's our plan to start is, having, 95% of our work come from contractors is great because it just comes in. But when it's slow or doesn't come in, you're like, well, what are we going to do? And I think the realization of that really hit home this year because in our market, it was a really slow start. Normally we're hanging and banging like mid-March where it's like everybody's chopping at the bit. Let's go. We had a big derecho storm here, which is like a hurricane on land pretty much a couple years ago. And so we had 2 or 3 years of work that was backed up. But this season, it's been a really slow start and kind of fed right into what our goals were for, wanting to do more retail work. And, in that has its own battles of, is it just a phone call? Is it set an appointment in person? Like how Corey was talking about at convention and be there in person. Same with, Tommy talks a lot about that as well. Well, in order to do that, you have to have somebody that can go sell. And so now we've got everything set up for contractors, but we don't have a salesperson or whatever. So then, I kind of fall back into that role again. And not that I want to be a salesperson, but it's that next role that has to be filled. And so we're trying to work through our process of what's the best approach for, this retail sales stuff with, we're doing direct mailers and door hangers and yard signs. We offer a referral program for any of our customers.
So how's that work?
If they refer us to anybody, we give them $100, even if it's something small. And because it's hopefully telling somebody I'm all about doing a small fix for not making a bunch of money on it.
I always say small jobs lead to big jobs.
And it builds that network and that trust. And we did a repair for this little old lady that didn't even need gutter work done. She had birds' nests in her gutters because they didn't put end caps on the toppers from the time before. So nobody would take it because all they wanted to do was replace our gutters. And so we went there. I charged her like a trip charge, I think like $150 to go and figure out whatever was wrong. And so did it. We got like 6 calls from that. And that's what a lot of people don't understand. I look at this as the long haul. I didn't get into this just to put money in my pocket today. I got into this to help our employees be better people. And then down the line is the big thing,
Yeah.
So that referral thing, you're hoping that they're going to talk about it, oh man, they came and helped this. I think I've done 5 or 6 in just the last month of small things like that are no big deals, but most people won't touch them because they just want the full replacement. And it's that balance act of, sending a crew to someplace like this where you're paying them, a lot of money. We pay our guys really, really well. And it's like, well, you're hoping that it's that building that name and that brand of they do a good job, even if it's for something little. And that's what I think our next kind of step is, back to your question, is building our brand as a presence. Where we're at, there's not a big presence of a name for gutters. There's not that household name. And that's what we want to try to become is, somebody needs gutters, they like Goliath gutters just kind of comes out of your mouth. And that's what we're shooting for. And so we'll have 6 or 7 branded vehicles on the road here by the summer. So hopefully that will help updating our website, getting a Google presence, a lot of things you don't know about as a small business owner.
And it all takes time too. Like it doesn't happen in the first year.
When you got to be ready for it is the thing. You can't put all these things in place and not be able to support it because then you just fall on your face and you do all this legwork for nothing. And I think that was kind of a blessing in disguise that I didn't have enough time to put these things into place in order to do it, where now I have time to do it and can start adding on to some of that stuff, and so that's kind of our big next push is the retail market. Like you said, we're getting ready to buy a property to move into a new building, and so that's exciting for us. And just continue to expand on our team. And that's a big thing that myself and my business partner were big about when we started to have employees was we want to change the industry as far as the construction mindset of we call them team members, but of employees. And we want to treat them better than any other job that they've been to. None of my guys up till this past season had ever installed gutters before. They were cooks. They worked at grocery stores. They did, I can't even think about it, all the other places that they worked. One guy was a detailer. I had another cook. And so we like to hire people, not experience. And so in that same thing is we're trying to make them better, just in general, not as just installers, but better people to have better lives. We've got a saying as Goliath Gutters is better. And it's not an ego thing. It's like we're better, but it's being great together is the big thing with that, And so that's just one of the things that, like I said, we try to do as owners originally was to make our employees' lives better before we made our lives better as owners. And that's something that we've stand behind and really, we do raises every year. We do company parties twice a year. We stock the fridge with, energy drinks, pop, food, all that stuff for the guys in the morning. Nobody has to pay for their tools. We provide all their own swag. So all those kinds of things that we try to do to where in the industry, it's like you go to a construction job and you're like, oh, I got to buy tools now. Oh, this happened. I got to replace it. And so that makes it hard as far as that goes. And so, like I said, we use that better as a term here as best efforts together towards excellent results. And so we make that as kind of like our motto here, and it can come off kind of corny, but I like the what it creates as a team for us,
Yeah, well, if there's one thing that I've said over the last couple of years, because I've really struggled with employees, and I'm a little older now too. I'm in my 50s, so I don't really connect as well as maybe yourself being in your 30s with a 20-something. And I've mentioned this before. My son just finished up university this spring, and he's with the company now. And I'm excited for him to kind of take over that role of managing the crew because he's a little closer in age. And, there's a lot of things that you just spoke about that, make a big difference to employees these days. I mean,
tried to look
25 years ago, we didn't even have energy drinks to get
right.
Right?
Yeah. And I think what I tried to do was I took all my bad experiences in my work life, because I've had a lot of them, and not bad experiences, but all the things at work that were always like, man, I wish this, or you had to do that. And I tried to turn it on its head. And I made mistakes as a boss or as a business owner. I went down the route in the beginning that, you try to be everybody's buddy and friend, and you can't do that. You can't be too nice, and then you have to find the balance of that a little bit. But that was the big thing is, what's going to make people want to come work for us and stay working for us and those perks may not be very much stuff, but it's stuff that I look at it. It's like, man, it's, you watch, there was a movie called The Internship.
Yeah.
Where they go to work at Google and all the perks there. Like, that's where the mindset came from. It. It's like, man, this is all included. We've got a huge rec room and break area that's got like shuffleboard and pool table and arcade and dartboards and stuff like that the guys can, utilize at the end of the day. We say, no, get out there and work. And then at the end of the day, you can have fun. But we do, like I said, we do company parties. We'll have a Memorial Day company party. We do a huge Christmas party that we cater in food and give away prizes and stuff. And so it's that culture that we're trying to create that you can't force it. You can't want it to happen. Sometimes it just, it just happens. And then you roll with it and you start to build on that. And it's what we've tried to do.
Yeah, cool. You must have talked to Ben Conowitz at Gutter-Con, did you?
I did. Yeah. Definitely picked his brain because, he spoke and I felt like he was right to me on a lot of stuff, because I was like, I do that. And so I reached out to him and asked him about some of that stuff. And
you could almost be his cousin or nephew, You guys almost look alike.
Well, I'm a big kid at heart too. I love arcades and stuff like that as well. Yeah. So I heard him speak and I was like, this is like me. This guy's me.
My long lost brother.
Absolutely. And I struggled in the beginning. You try to do nice stuff for your teammates and your guys all the time. And not everybody is great at showing recognition for that. And that would really bug me. You bring a crew lunch and they're all just like, all right. And, or you do something nice and you don't get a thank you for it as an owner or as a boss. It's like, man, I kind of chaps my ass a little bit. And my dad, as an administrator, gave me the best advice I've gotten in a long time. He said, do the things that you want to do because you want to do them, not for the thank you. And so that stuck with me. And so now that's kind of that new shift for me is I want to do all this. You know, I want to take care of our team guys and our office team and everything. And, you know, I want to provide them with their best lives. I don't want them to have to live paycheck to paycheck and have to worry about, you know, where their car payment's going to come, or are they going to have a Thanksgiving dinner, or, you know, make their house payment or whatnot. And so we really try to push everything back on to them and give them as much as possible as far as that goes.
Cool. Awesome. Well, listen, we didn't really chat before. I'm going to put you on the spot. Are you coming to CoreyCon? You're like 5.5 hours away drive.
Haven't decided yet. I have to see how it's going to work out for my schedule. I just saw the email for it, but potentially, yes, I would like to get up there and see his facility and you know, go through all that, but not 100% sure yet. So I'm not going to allow you to hold me on the spot to it.
Okay, good. But you aren't far away.
That's true. That is very true. Yeah, he's got a location right here in our back door as well. So.
Oh, does he? Oh, so
yeah.
That'd be a good opportunity for you to like, you know, do a little bit of, you know, looking around the corners while Corey's busy, right?
Well, and I talked to him at convention, and the guy that actually ran his Iowa branch, and they're great. You know, they're great guys, and I think in almost any industry that you're specifically in a niche industry, you know, a lot of times you're out there on job sites and it ends up being like West Side Story, where you're eyeballing everybody and, you know, it's everybody's your enemy. And what was so great about convention, so thank you for putting that on, was it was so great to be able to talk to so many people. And it wasn't that, you know, where you're on edge or, well, I can't tell this guy this, or I don't want to talk to that guy about that. And it was really great to be able to talk to so many people that do exactly what you do. You know, you got to talk shop with people from all across the country, and you don't really get to do that anywhere besides with your own teammates, you know?
Yeah, exactly. I totally agree with you. And I think, you know, GutterCon isn't really about teaching guys how to do a strip mite or a box mite or a hand cut. We're just assuming, at least, you know, it was never that vision for me. I just assume all gutter guys know how to install gutters, but it's really about all the other things, like the things that you know, you can learn from other guys. And you know, I would just say this about Corey. Corey's an open book. He's not going to hold anything back just because, you know, you could be a competitor of his. But yeah, well, think about it. I'd love to see you there.
Absolutely.
And we haven't made the official announcement yet, but we've kind of sneaked it out that GutterCon is going to be 2024 is going to be in Florida again. It's going to be at the Hyatt Regency instead of the Gaylord, so it's a little bit more reasonable room rate, and I think it's going to be a great spot to have GutterCon 2024 again. So.
You know, I'll say this, and I mean this 100%. When I found it on a whim on Facebook. Just scrolling through, and I saw an ad for it, and it was like GutterCon. I was like, "There's no way that this is legit. Like, this has to be this a scam." So I went in, and this is from me to anybody listening, and you don't have to take my word for it, but please take it into consideration. It was one of the best things that I've done for my business to go there, and not necessarily just listening to the speakers that talk there, which they were fantastic, but it's everybody that you meet and all the small roundtables and the breakfast and the lunch and the dinner and going out for drinks and the things that you learn and the things that even people that I've met that were just getting started, like you get a couple nibbles from them and you're like, oh, I never thought about that. And then you tell somebody else something like, oh, I never thought about that. And just the, you know, how that kind of just worked. I mean, I got so much from the roundtable stuff, and not even like in the talks that was just amazing, you know, and
I think that's the most powerful, actually. And Tony Cobb will say this too. It's all about sitting around at a dinner table or breakfast table or at the bar having a beer or whatever. And you know, this is what a lot about this CoreyCon is about hanging out and having fun with people, and just, you know, we're not going to be doing any classes or anything like that. It's going to be a lot of fun too. So.
Yeah, and that's where, you know, I signed up for Donovan's cleaning course like last minute, and I was like, man, this has got to be a mistake. 5 hours for this thing. It was amazing. I took in so much in that 5 hours.
Yeah.
Just from like the spotty conversations that you get where you get on a topic and people would just start chiming in and stuff, and took a ton from that and have implicated a ton. And that would be one thing that I would just recommend that if you go this year, which I hope it doubles this year. I mean, really,
So do I.
it would be amazing. And I'm sure it would be for you, but just to be able to talk and the store and stuff. But you know, you get so much information at these places that I think for me, what the big part was make a list of everything that you learn and the slow burn to implicate those things. You know, one thing at a time. You know, I think one of the speakers said something about that only 1% of people go back and implicate anything. Well, if you only implicate one thing, you're already bettering your business.
Yeah, exactly. As long as you do one thing. Exactly.
Yep.
So, well, listen, Tyler, I want to thank you for taking the time to chat with me. It's been a few weeks. I was away this winter for a little bit, came back, was really busy getting organized. I took a trip to Michigan. I think I mentioned to you, I was over at Classic Gutter Systems in Kalamazoo, hanging out with Augustine for a couple days, picking up some materials. So I had a great visit down with him. So glad to kind of be back interviewing a gutter guy. I've had a lot of suppliers, it seems, lately. So it's good to chat with someone about their business. So appreciate your time.
Absolutely. And feel free to post my contact information on this as well. If anybody has any questions or wants to reach out, I'm more than happy to talk. I actually have a couple guys that I talk with on Zoom calls a couple times now, back and forth, just like a weekly, like, what's up? How you doing? Like
nice.
kind of stuff. And so I love doing that. As you can tell, I'm a chatterbox. I don't shut up. So
yeah, geez, I haven't even looked at the time here, but we must have killed about an hour, I guess. So. Okay, well, listen, again, thanks a lot, and we'll be talking. I'm sure I'll let you know when we post this, and I'll put your email and contact number up in the notes below.
Awesome. Well, I really appreciate you having me on, and look forward to either seeing you up in Minnesota or down in Florida in February.
Okay, sounds good.
Thanks, Brent. Have a good one.
See ya.